Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amp, if you're ready, we're going to get started in 5, 4, 3, 2. Good morning and welcome to the Appeals Hearing Board for January 29th, 2026. I'll call the meeting to order at 10 a.m. Okay, we'll start with a roll call. Board Member Fritz?
Here.
Board Member Hoffmeister?
Here.
Chair Glenzer? Okay, let the record reflect that all the board members are present. First order of business on the agenda is approval of minutes. The first set of minutes is going to be February 21st, 2024. Does anyone want to make the motion to? Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Okay. Roll call. Board Member Hoffmeister?
Yes.
Chair Glenzer? And Board Member Fritz? Okay, let the motion go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Alicia, if you could also just do the little description on how the public can participate
Sure.
if they're on Zoom.
Okay, should I finish the minutes first and then do that, or should I start with?
They just took the vote on the one, but I would go ahead and read the how you can participate portion or refer people to the agenda to look it up. Yeah, sure. I'll just go ahead and read it.
Thank
So
you.
for members of the public, if you want to participate by Zoom, you can join on a computer, and the front of the agenda explains how to do this. So just refer to the front of the agenda, I think is the easiest way to put it. So,
Thank you.
and we will do a countdown to see if there's any people on Zoom that would like to participate. They can just raise their hand and we will call on them.
Okay, so we do have someone online right now. Let me find out if she's ready. Are you here to speak on the item number 3? The appeal of the
No,
Hello?
no, I'm not.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have the approval of second item on the agenda, approval of minutes of September 18th, 2025. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve? Okay. Okay. Roll call vote. Chair Glenzer? Board Member Hoffmeister?
Yes.
And Board Member Fritz?
Yeah.
Okay. Let the motion, let the record reflect that the minutes from February 21st, 2024 and September 18th, 2025 have been approved. Okay. Next on the agenda is general public comments. Any commenters online? I don't see any hands raised. Any commenters in the audience? Seeing none in the audience, we'll go ahead and close general public comments. Now it's time for public hearing. The item we'll be hearing today is the appeal of Charlie Chell on the Forestry Division's decision to deny the application for removal of a Monterey pine in the backyard of 814 Martin Street. So I just want to let everyone know this is an informal hearing and formal rules of evidence do not apply. The board may consider any evidence or information deemed relevant and reasonable and reliable. The applicant has the burden of proof. And at this time, we'll ask the board to disclose any ex parte contacts.
I have none.
None.
Okay. And at this time, we'll ask the city attorney to make her ethical wall comment.
Thank you, Ms. Salas. I'm the city attorney for the city of Monterey, and I'm advising the appeals hearing board on this matter today. Also present in chambers is Assistant City Attorney Karen Crotley. She is representing the department in this case. In order to ensure that there is a fair hearing for both sides, we keep an ethical screen. So I have not discussed this case with Ms. Crotley, and she has not discussed it with me. We have not shared documents or information. I'm receiving information at the same time that the board is receiving the information. And this is just to ensure fairness in the hearing procedure.
So at this time, I'd like to start with the opening statement from the applicant, Mr. Dell.
I have some material to go through. Should I go through that now?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, you sure should.
You guys can all hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, probably not just. So I handed out a couple pieces of information, sort of a summary here that talks about sort of the overall and gives a timeline that you guys are aware of. And then also a couple pictures that I thought might be relevant. And I'll kind of talk about them as I go through this. But let me go ahead and kind of wind back and just give you a little bit of a backstory about the tree. Okay. So it's against the, sort of the back fence of our yard. And it used to be there was another one right on the other side, sort of a companion tree that I think were planted more or less at the same time. And so two Monterey pines, basically, literally, a couple of feet from each other, they do what they do, right? When they grow, they end up growing apart from each other and they end up being one-sided. Well, the one tree was taken down 2 or 3 years ago, our neighbor's tree. And so that left our tree sitting out there. It's asymmetrical. It's leaning away because it was leaning away from that other tree, which happens to be toward the house. And also now it's a single tree that's unprotected from wind and everything else. So, we have what unfortunately is just, a bad situation for a tree. So I followed the process, got the permit, everything else. I've had several arborists out, one that I paid, some that I haven't paid. In general, because they'd all give me the same story, but at the same time, they kind of say, well, the city won't approve it. But the arborists all basically, scored the tree as hazardous. One scored it a 10 out of 12, another one 11 out of 12. And I think you guys are probably all familiar with the hazard scale. This tree is, 33 inches in diameter, so it gets 4 for size. It's next to like 4 constantly occupied houses. So it gets 4 for threat to structures. And from a standpoint of probability of falling, one arborist rated it a 2 out of 4, the other rated it a 3 out of 4. But, these days, and I'll kind of come back to this over and over again, I think, but, these trees can fall pretty much at any time. And so, it's kind of funny, but we have a dog. And so I walk the dog all the time. And we go through Via Paraiso Park. And we go through all the parks. But since we're out walking last week, I decided I'll go ahead and count the Monterey pines. So believe it or not, there are like 60 big Monterey pines in Via Paraiso Park. And then I started thinking about, well, how many have fallen like in the last 5 years in terms of my memory? And so there are like 3 that fell down at the gulch, kind of like down below the sand pit or the sand volleyball courts and everything else. There's, 1 or 2 that fell up around the picnic area. There's one, I think, that fell on the other side. But just tally that up. That's like half a dozen out of the 60 trees. That's 10% of these trees have fallen in the last 5 years. They do fall. They all looked healthy, as do the trees that are in Quarry Park and up at Veterans and over on Skyline. It's just hard to tell when these trees are going to fall. The right soil conditions, the right wind conditions, and any of these trees are suspect. So, I think it's just sort of a fact of life that that could happen. So what happens in this case if it falls? In this particular case, it's leaning over our house. It's large. It's, I did the math. It's probably about, 15 tons, for this size tree. You can kind of go look it up. I mean, any of the AIs will figure it out for you too. But because of this, how this tree is situated, if it falls, it's likely going to fall over our house, and it's big enough that the crown is going to extend past the roof line. So when it comes down, it's not going to come down sort of nice and soft. It's going to come down hard. It's going to come right across the roof. It's going to break the roof. Who knows what else might happen? And of course, that's where our bedroom is. So we're sleeping there too. So, there's a threat not only to property, but to life. It's, again, it's something that just could happen. And if this tree doesn't fall on us, then, on the picture that I sent you in this piece here, you can see where the tree is, its direction of lean, and what's in the fall radius. So there are 4 houses in the fall radius, this tree. The neighbors want it out too. They feel just as threatened as we do. In fact, we've got one set of neighbors that's confided in us that they sleep in a different room during storms. So, it's something that we all are concerned about. So I'm pretty worried, and I'm also very frustrated at this point. I mean, I feel like the way the city code is written, and I've been thinking a lot about code, and I know you've been thinking about it too, and I'd love to actually get with you, Tice, because I've got several things that I think we could discuss. And the Monterey Vista Neighborhood Association's been discussing them too. So, but it feels the way code is written these days, and I don't blame you guys that you're acting with the code, is that I have to wait for this tree to fall and hope that doesn't do any damage, which is unlikely, or try to find that short little window between when it's obviously about ready to fall, it's starting to tilt over and everything else, and when it actually falls, and hopefully I can get it out in time. That's kind of a tough window to hit, even if it exists, right? From a standpoint of replacement, we love the trees. We moved here to this area because of the trees. The other place that we thought about moving a long time ago was Cambria, same kind of ecosystem and stuff. So of course we're going to replant trees. We've got a dozen trees on the property right now. It's not that big, but it's it's like one tree for every 10,000 feet. So it's reasonably dense at this point, but we can fit a couple more in there. But again, this kind of gets back to code. I think we have to stop worrying about sort of fighting tooth and nail for a tree. I mean, look at all the energy we're all spending here on this. The point isn't a matter of this tree. The point is a matter of how do you manage the forest? How do you continue to replant trees? How do you renew the forest? So to me, the logical thing to do here, this tree's a threat. Let's take it out. Let's go ahead and move on and plant some more here, there, wherever else, In our particular case, in terms of the backyard, I don't want to plant another Monterey pine there. We'll plant something in the front. But the backyard has a couple pine trees now that are heavily infested with dwarf mistletoe. And I think that if we just plant another one there, it's going to just be the same problem, and it wouldn't have it'd be off to a disadvantage before it even got started. So yeah, put it out in the front, and hopefully they'll underground the lines before the tree gets really big. Now, in terms of the city forester, when Mike, when you came out, I mean, you denied the tree with no explanation. When we went out, chatted over email, you came back and you said that it was healthy. It appeared healthy to you. I don't think health is the real issue here. Again, all the trees that fall up in the forest look healthy. The issue is the hazard evaluation, whether this tree poses a threat to property and the life. And I never saw anything in your evaluation about that. I think that that's something that I wish you would have considered more. But to me, that is what really drives this particular decision here. In terms of other remedies, the reason why I gave you these other 2 pictures is because wanted to sort of take pictures to show the lean and to show the asymmetrical crown. I don't think there's any way that pruning can help. And I've had arborists out, urban lumberjacks has been out, other guys have been out doing estimates. All the crown literally is to the left of the tree. I mean, toward our house. I mean, because of the lean and so forth, there's very little. So, I mean, what could you possibly do other than like prune it back to a pole to get it to be balanced? Even then it wouldn't be, but then at that point, it's not going to, you know, if you make it a 30-foot high pole, it's not going to do nearly as much damage, but it also won't be a tree. So again, I think that doing any kind of pruning, we've been there, we've done that. We've had this thing pruned a couple times, $2,500 a pop. It gets expensive to manage these trees. And so it's not something I think is a viable option to do that again. You know, in terms of the mitigation recommended the 2-to-1 replacement. I'm still curious about the reasoning behind that. Again, there's a lot of trees on the property right now. If you sort of look at tree density in the neighborhood, we're on the upper end of that scale as opposed to the lower end. We've got a lot of trees already. So I wouldn't mind putting another Monterey pine in. And then we've got some plans to put a couple more oaks in. We just negotiate where. But anyway, it was kind of odd to see sort of the 2-to-1 replacement because I just didn't really see how that kind of fit in. I understand where it fits in code, but I just didn't see what the intent was behind it. Yeah, and we've got to really kind of think long-term here. You know, these trees grow. So hopefully what we plant now is going to last 75 years. And so, and it'll get big like the rest of them do, and it'll be a good thing. Now I have a couple other things that I've really hesitated to bring up, but since the, you know, sort of the preamble to the, you know, the meeting invitation and so forth really talks about, you know, sort of the fact that you need to bring up everything here that might end up being useful in court later. There are a couple things that I do need to bring up. One is, and I'm sure you guys are all aware that, I mean, there is a potential conflict of interest between the city forester and the tree services owned by his dad. So there are things in code we can do to recommend that. So, I mean, I think we can really solve all those kind of problems, but it's something that exists today. And I know when Mike was out, you know, it seemed to me that we were, you know, that we were on the same page. When you were out the year before, you said get an arborist report, and I really felt that it's like get an arborist report and then we're all good. So I was really surprised when all of this changed. It seemed kind of, you know, I was really taken back. I thought we were really just going through a fairly formal, just a formality, and that you know, the arborist rated it a hazard and recommended removal. I thought that was kind of done, but in any case, it's what it is. And the other thing is, from a standpoint of liability. Now, I have experts that say the tree is a hazard. The city has experts that say the tree is healthy. If I took the tree out or decided to keep the tree on my own accord based on my own experts, it's on me. It's my liability. If the city tells me not to take this tree out, then I question. I think the city is culpable on this, and that it becomes then the city's liability, either for us to, our insurance company to recoup any damages, or for our heirs if the worst thing happens. So I don't know, but it just seems odd. And again, I think I know that there's a section in the city code that says that you know, that their city has no liability, but it comes down to who's making the decision. So that kind of wraps it up. I mean, from a standpoint of the board here, you're supposed to evaluate on about 6 things. Tree health, great. The tree has some issues, but it's a mature tree. It's reasonably healthy. Tree safety. I hope I've shown you guys that from a safety standpoint, this tree poses a hazard to both property and life, not just of us, but of other parts of the neighborhood as well. Visual prominence, a pretty tree, but it's in the backyard. Aesthetic beauty and / property values. All of our neighbors want the tree out too. They were, one of them was going to be here today, but then he had a meeting coming. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but they're all very interested in it. Applicant anxiety. Yeah, we lose sleep over this, right? I kind of break out sometimes over this. I have neighbors that sleep in another room. It's an issue. Mitigation measures, I'm sure we'll work something out. We're happy to plant trees. It's not an issue on that kind of thing. So, and so it comes down to, it feels to me that the city here is asking us to take on a financial and a life risk that we are not interested in accepting. And I hope you guys see to go ahead and grant this approval. Okay, that's kind of it where if you have any questions.
Yeah,
I'm happy.
thanks. Just stay where you are.
Okay, sure.
I want to open it up for questions from my fellow board members.
It'd be in the chronology, but about 2 years ago. I think so. About 2 years ago, 2.5, something like that. I guess I didn't put it down there, but yeah, about 2 years ago.
How long have you lived in the house?
We bought it in 2019. Did a lot of remodeling at that point. Bathrooms really weren't working, so I lived and worked on the house, and my wife lived in San Jose. And would come down on the weekends and use the bathrooms at the park because it's close by. So.
Your neighbors said anything in writing about?
We have one friend who submitted a letter. One neighbor invited. The neighbors would be happy to do that, but I didn't ask them to.
I wanted to in the board packet there is you provided, or your response to it, you provided a pretty detailed timeline of the last couple of years, a couple 3 years dealing with this tree. And you briefly mentioned it just now. I want to give you an opportunity to remind us, so to speak, of with that tree, what have you actually done over the last couple of years?
Page 2 of the handout with the picture has a chronology of the. Actually, I'm sorry. It's basically, this has to do with the tree removal. In terms of actual maintenance of the tree, everything's here. So, see, in 2020, the Urban Lumberjacks was out. And then in 22, we had out looking at, another arborist out, sprayed the oaks with mycorrhiza to help them be healthy, and looked at the back trees. And then we had, urban back out in 2023. And then actually they were just out this last Christmas time pruning another one of the trees.
Thank you. Just wanted to get the reminder.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Up front and center. I have no further questions.
Do you have an extra copy of the handout you're talking about?
The handout?
Yeah, I didn't receive one. Thanks.
No, but I've got it memorized, so.
Thank you.
Okay. No, but I agree with the city forester. I mean, it's early signs, but it's not really something. And I think actually the mistletoe is probably more relevant. But in either case, health isn't the issue here. This tree could be as healthy as it could be, and with the right rain, the right windstorm, it's in trouble. I mean, it's sitting there. There's no other trees around it. If we get a heavy wind from the north, that follows several inches of rain over a few days, and this tree will come down, because that's the direction. And we can go into physics. I can talk about the torque arm and so forth and so on, but it's not important.
Any more questions? All right, great. Thank you very
Sure.
much.
Thank you
Mr.
so
Bell.
much, guys.
So the city, I'd like to have the city come up and present their case. Mr. Dell had about 15 minutes on that, so the city should be feel free to take up to 15 minutes if that's okay.
Well, I'm with neighbor of it. Okay, then there'll be time for. Okay.
So good afternoon, or I guess good morning still. I'm Assistant City Attorney Karen Kratley. I'm representing the Forestry Division today. I'm here with Assistant Urban Forester Mike Tope, and we'll go through the presentation. If you want to sit and respond over there, I can go through the background and then we'll get to your part. We have a brief PowerPoint. So, and before I get to that, let me just address, because I don't want to forget it, I think it's important. An issue with a conflict of interest was brought up. And I just want to make very clear for the record, the Fair Political Practices Commission in California sets out rules and regulations regarding public employee conflicts of interest. And their legal determination is if you have an adult child who is not a dependent on their parent, who does not receive income from their parent's business, they're separate entirely legally. There is no legal conflict of interest just because your parent happens to have a business in the same town. So I want to make very clear that Mr. Tope did not have a conflict of interest here. So with that said, the legal background here is important. And while we've heard some discussion that the city code needs to change, that is not the purview of this board. That's the city council's decision. Currently, the city council has adopted Chapter 37 of the city code, which deals with the preservation of trees and shrubs. And there they say very clearly, their policy is that this is meant to be a forested community, that the trees in the community significantly contribute to the city. And the city's goal is that we want to preserve trees and the replacement of trees when removal is unavoidable. So with that said, then the code lays out the requirements to get a permit to remove a tree. And then the city forester is given 5 sort of conditions, standards to look at when granting a tree removal request. First and foremost, the health of the tree really is the touchstone for the forester. We apparently have no debate here that this is a healthy tree. And based on that and that admission, the forester's denial of this permit was entirely proper. So then when we get to the appeal stage, the code lays out slightly different categories and conditions for the board to apply. And so when looking at the appeal today, you're to look at the visual prominence and importance of the tree on the site or in the community. We've heard testimony already that several Monterey pines have already been removed. If we keep removing Monterey pines because of the fear involved, we won't be left with a forest anymore. So again, here's the tree at the back of the property at 814 Martin Street. And then here's a photo on the left showing the canopy of the tree, and on the right, the base of the tree. And at this point, I think it'd be helpful that we hear from Assistant Urban Forester Mike Tope. Mr. Tope, can you tell the board a bit about your background and work history?
Good morning. My name is Michael Tope. As Karen said, that I'm the Assistant Urban Forester for the City of Monterey. My background is I'm a certified arborist and ISA tree risk assessor. I've been in the industry for about 15 years, and I've been with the city for roughly almost 4 years now in this current role.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we see in the packet from arborist Amanda Gates she is also ISA certified. So you have a similar certification to her, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And you went out to the site and personally inspected this tree, is that right?
I did.
Okay. And can you tell the board what you observed?
The tree appeared to be really healthy based on the visual inspection at the time on site for the species. The canopy exhibited really vigorous growth, and I couldn't see any obvious defects on the tree. For example, like fruiting, fungal bodies, any signs that the tree is compromised, like uplift in the soil, in the roots, no cracking of the bark or the soil. And I didn't see any obvious broken branches at the time of inspection. I feel like preventative canopy pruning on the tree would really help reduce the weight over the structure. And overall, the tree appeared pretty healthy based on a level 1 visual inspection. At the time, I didn't do just a level 1 visual only on the tree that time of inspection.
Mm-hmm. And so the board understands a level 2 would actually involve taking samples from the tree. Is that right?
A level 2 would be probing the soil with a soil probe, using binoculars, other tools, and then a level 3 would be like doing sonic tomography, or using a resistograph to get internal core of the tree to see if it has any signs of decay on the inside. And that's something that the private homeowner would typically get an arborist to perform on the tree, a higher level inspection.
And so based on your observations on the tree, as well as your training and experience, did you feel that this tree was hazardous?
Based on the visual inspection I performed on the tree, I didn't see any obvious defects on the tree that would indicate it's going to fail.
And that's what you based your denial on, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other information you'd like to add for the board?
I feel like in this kind of situation, the tree just appeared really healthy from what I could see. And like I said, I couldn't see any obvious defects on the tree. Based on the overall health too, it looks pretty healthy from what I could see. Yes, it has bark beetle, but it's pretty early stages from what I could see on the lower trunk of the tree. Preventative spraying or injection could potentially treat the bark beetle on the tree.
Is bark beetle common in Monterey pines?
Yeah, it's very common in Monterey pine trees, especially in this area.
And a tree can still be healthy.
Yes. Yeah.
With the beetle. That's right.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So we also
have an opportunity. Sorry to interrupt. I have an opportunity.
Yes, sorry to interrupt. Yes, you will have an opportunity to provide another comment after the city has done it.
I also wanted to ask Tice Norton. Tice, can you just tell the board your position with the city real quick?
Yeah, I'm the park operations manager, formerly a forester for the city. And yeah, and currently forestry is one of the subdivisions of parks. Yep.
So when you previously were in the role of the assistant urban forester, is that right?
Correct.
And so back in 2024, did you receive the email you're seeing on the screen now?
Correct.
And so at that time, well, you received an email from Mr. Is it Shell? And he said, concerning this Monterey pine in our backyard at 814 Martin Street, I think that the universe is telling me to leave the tree alone. You, Andrew, Urban Lumberjacks, and Amanda Gates have all indicated that the tree is substantially healthy and that there is no evidence of movement. And so at that point, did the homeowner in 2024 go forward with the permit?
No. Yes, we did have a back and forth. So to answer your question, no, we did have a back and forth. He applied for the permit. We talked about potentially getting an arborist report or not. It was after this point that chose not to pursue an arborist report. And I did get instructions to shred the check and the application.
Okay, thank you. So staff recommendation is to deny the appeal by Mr. Shell. There's been no indication that the tree is unhealthy. It is a mature Monterey pine that the city council has encouraged the retention of those trees and the preservation of them. And so therefore staff is requesting that the appeal be denied and that you uphold the denial of the tree removal permit.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to open it up for public comment. And you will have a chance after the public comment for the. You're right.
What?
Sorry, questions for the city.
Oh.
I was jumping the gun.
No, I don't believe we had any other conversation about the tree until the most recent application, and I was not in I was in a new position. So Mike's being our only forester. He handled this application. I did not, just to be clear, I did not see the tree most recently. So I don't know if I can't personally say notice any changes with the condition. So I have to lean on Mike for that assessment. Yeah. In 2024, I don't know if we started our conversation in 2023 or not, but yeah, that was the last time I've seen the tree. Yeah.
What I'm trying to understand is, if a person has a tree in their yard and it's completely healthy, there's nothing wrong with the tree. But it's kind of a curious situation where if something were to go south, it causes a lot of damage.
Yeah.
Or anyone who's walking. So I'm just trying to understand is where's that falling in the range when you have a very healthy tree, but because of where it's situated.
So
That storm is.
So this hazard rating is actually an outdated system. Now arborists are using the tree risk assessment matrix. So on this, the hazard rating can be relatively high. If you look at the failure potential, the tree canopy has a lot of weight to it. And if you look at the failure potential rating, for a tree that size, it's almost always going to be on a higher scale because of the size of the canopy. And the size of the diameter of the tree is going to be a little bit higher for that size of a tree because the size of the tree overall, the diameter size. Like on this one, let's see, it's a 33-inch pine. So you look at the overall size of the part, it's going to be a 4, which is going to really bring the rating up really high. And due to the fact there's a house within striking distance to the tree, that would bring the rating up to a constant target rating, which would make the overall rating really high.
Mr. Shell presented some thoughts or some opinions or some data about the number of pines in the neighborhood, and said that I mean, just an estimate that 10% of the pines in the neighborhood have fallen over in some last period of time. I mean, do you know do you have figures like that? Does the city have figures like that?
No, we don't have figures. We do keep a tree inventory, but I can't say that we've ever analyzed it to that effect of what position, how many has fallen. More of ours is maintaining the forest in terms of responding to trees down, trees, and maintaining our own trees. But I can't say we've ever had the time to analyze, but it would be really interesting to, if we had the time and the means to do something along those lines.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That'd be really very meaningful for sure.
Is it, so now it's a science question, so to speak, not a, whether the data that Mr. Shell presented is accurate or not. I'm going a different direction, but it's still sort of on the same thing. Scientifically, is there any argument or possibility that particular neighborhoods with the soil the way it is in particular neighborhoods might be more susceptible to trees falling? Does that even make any sense? And I know you don't have the research on, I'm just asking hypothetically, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. Monterey Vista skyline is clay. There's a lot of clay up there. There's a very shallow topsoil layer. Monterey pines have a shallow root system. It is very hard for them to penetrate and get deep roots into this clay soil. So it is a fact, absolutely, that's what things that makes them a little bit more susceptible. Obviously, they grow very tall. They could be very top heavy. We could have very significant rains as we've had in the last few years, and that's what makes these trees vulnerable. So.
And we always take into account the soil, on site and look at the roots and determine, if it has enough anchorage in the roots to anchor itself properly.
So remind me again, approximately how old is this tree, and what does the science say about how long a Monterey pine is viable?
I'd say roughly 60, 70 years old. They're relatively short-lived species.
Does short-lived mean
80 years?
Okay.
Yeah. 90 years.
59 years old.
So we've got a 69-year-old tree, and again, these are just averages. I get it, but expecting it to be viable until 80 would be an average way of thinking.
Could potentially have a tree this size that's only 50 years old. I've counted 40, 50-year-old tree with the rings, and it's due to amount of water and nutrients on site. So It really depends. You'd have to count the rings.
Yeah,
which you can't do.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. How much does it? I have so many questions. Sorry, I just started my semester. I teach at the Middlebury Institute, and so I'm full of questions for my students. Sorry. This level 3 assessment, how much does it cost?
I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Okay.
So the city of Monterey, we have a resistograph machine that we use on city trees.
Right. But the city, I just want to make sure I understood. The city itself, I think you said that a level 3 assessment is the homeowner's responsibility. That is not something the city provides. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess I do have one more question for the city. And I'm not trying to presuppose a decision from my colleagues with this question. I'm just trying to think through it. The question of alternative planting, right? In other words, remove the tree, and then there's the 2-to-1 issue. Does that have to be on the exact same property?
Yeah, our replant requirement requires that the replant has to have on that same property. There are very few exceptions where we let people plant in the city greenbelt or what have you. There is also we do have a payment in lieu fee. I don't think that's being proposed in this one, but for a regular permit, if the permit was approved, we do allow the opportunity for people to do the payment in lieu of planting on their property. So that would be a fee to the city, and then we would put that in account for us to plant city trees. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank
Okay.
you. I don't have any more questions right now.
Okay. Has the city rested its case? Okay. And so then if Mr. Shell would like to question witnesses, cross-examine, you can do that now.
What about public comment?
That would come after.
Okay, thank you.
I'm up with it here.
Oh.
Okay, all right. Good. Yeah, you guys don't meet very often, I notice. So yeah, well, thanks for so much for taking the time to meet today. So you said a couple things when you were going through your slides that I wanted to go back to, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just before we do this, if you could keep your comments to 7 minutes.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, you said that the determination is based solely on the health of the tree. You remember that? You were showing one of
Sir, the cross-examination period is not to examine attorneys. You can
well, the attorney
cross-examine.
gave a testimony here, so why couldn't I?
The attorney gave a presentation. The attorney did not give testimony, and attorney argument is not evidence. It's just argument. And so if you have witnesses you'd like to question on cross-examination, you may do so, but it's not appropriate to do that of the lawyer.
Well, let me just go ahead and just point out something because, you know, the statement was made that the termination is made solely on health. And that's, if you read the city code, it's health, comma, and then hazard. And your Tice is nodding. I mean, so I just want to make sure we weren't mischaracterizing that. And the other thing, you know, when I was talking about the tree, you know, trees falling in Via Paraiso, I wanted to kind of give a shout out to the city. You guys have done a great job of replanting up there. So, so it's really nice. I guess I just really have one basic question, which is, Mike, could the tree fall?
I could see, based off the roots and looking, you know, at the time of inspection, I didn't see anything obvious, but conditions change as weather changes, as time goes on. So
So it felt like a non-answer. I mean, like if we had a big storm like we had a couple of years ago, and if we had winds, I mean,
trees always have the potential to fall over. Yeah.
thank you. That's really the main thing I wanted to say.
All right, thank you. And finally, time for public comment.
Good morning. I'm Vicki Williams, and I'm a neighbor of Charlie and Liz. I live down the street on Martin. And 3 years ago, I went through what Charlie and Liz are going through now. I, like Charlie and Liz, had 2 licensed arborists tell me that a dangerous tree needed to be removed, as when it falls, due to its lean, it would land on my home directed towards the upstairs bedroom. So began the journey through the maze that Charlie and Liz are now in. This is the beginning of daily fear and anxiety, which does not leave until the tree is removed. You get to have that every day. In the city code, as I interpret it, nothing is mentioned about homeowner safety until you get to the appeals board section on health, public health, safety, and welfare. All prior codes refer to the safety of the trees, the structures, which to me makes it an automatic denial by the city forester. I don't see they have any option. So begins the expense and the personal time moving forward, fear-based. When fear is involved, you find ways to make ends meet. In my case, we were given an exception to have the tree removed at the cost of $12,479. That included the fees and the tree removal. This was 3 years ago, so the cost, I'm sure, have gone up. Now, at the time, the dollars that it is costing for the city staff and others for this tree, for one old pine tree. In Monterey, we live in an aging forest with the majority of trees being on the properties before the city granted the permit to build the homes. Most trees are older than our homes. We are now in a place where many aging, leaning trees are beginning to be hazardous to human lives and homes when they fall. Most homes in Monterey are 50 to 60 plus years old, and the trees are like 70, 80 or more. This was back in the time when this was all approved. It sounded really good. Due to the changes of the aging forest, global warming issues, and insurances companies dropping clients in this area, we need to adjust the tree management with a team plan to meet the safety and financial needs going forward for homeowners, human safety, city property, and more healthy, thriving forest. Not just for us, but also for our children, grandchildren, future homeowners, and all citizens of the city of Monterey. I can't help but wonder what it will be like in the future when denied dangerous trees start to fall, taking out homes and or lives of the owners. Most homes in this area are over $1 million plus in cost. Then there's the liability cost of human lives. Will insurance companies decide it will be to their advantage to sue the city rather than to foot the bill? Taking advantage of all of the available denial documentation here today to help them move forward with a lawsuit. Now, 2 years ago, a healthy pine tree, and we have the forester out, walk the property every year, landed on my garage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution. All right, we are going to open it up now for board members to have an open deliberation about.
Let me just check before we do that if there's anyone online that wants to make a
That would
comment.
be great.
Yeah. Seeing no hands raised, anyone else in the audience? Oh, the hand just went up. Just a minute.
Alicia, I just want to say that we cannot hear the board members except Mr. Glenzer.
Rash, could you please speak up just a little?
We cannot hear the the members of the commission except for Mr. Glenzer.
So the board members need to use their microphone.
Are you guys using-
them to be able to hear on Zoom?
Is your mic on?
So you'll need to-
Okay, Ms. Rash, if you had a comment, go ahead.
No, I have no comment. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know. Now you're on.
All right, we're on again. So back to the board for open deliberation and conversation about this particular case. I'm going to just start with somewhat repeating at least part of what we've been hearing, because I think it's really important in this. And happy if other board members, want to take issue with what I'm saying. There's a lot in here in this conversation about code and whether the code is correct or not. There's a lot of conversation here about lawsuits and liability between city and its citizens. I think it's really important for us to remember that that isn't our job. Our job isn't to make a decision based on whether we think the code is correct or not, or whether we think what we think about liability one way or the other. And I think it's really important. I just wanted to put that out there because I do think it's really important. I think those kinds of considerations can allow us, if we're taking them into consideration, to maybe go down a path that we shouldn't. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to make sure I'm tracking.
Yeah.
So the legal standard that we're going through is here on page 32. And we're going through those elements right there. Is that
Correct.
those 4 elements?
Correct.
Correct. Turn my mic on.
So if you want to go through those, I don't know if that's the way to do it, just
That's a good
tackle those four
idea.
elements.
Well, can I just clarify one thing? The code says in addition to those four elements, the board also takes into account the standards of the city forester denial. So it's not just those four
Right.
elements.
So technically it starts on page 31. I should have
31.
said, yeah. The bullet number 1 is on page 31 and the rest is on page 32.
Yeah, and I think with regards to that, I mean, it's really important for me that both sides actually agree that by all reasonable standards at this point, with level 1 investigation, that this is a healthy tree.
Right.
That's an agreement, right? The city, and for me, the city forester has done his job. Thank you. Right? I don't think there's anything in question about that personally.
I agree.
Yeah, agree. That's
So the four elements that we have within our purview that we can, think about is visual prominence, aesthetic beauty, evidence of anxiety and concern by the tree. And then the fourth is some kind of if we were to go that route, some kind of a mitigation measure on it.
Excuse me, but you're saying the four elements, but that's in addition to the elements that are preceding paragraph.
Yeah, yes.
I think it's important.
Sir, the public comment is closed and the case is closed. So we'd appreciate letting the board have its deliberation without interruption.
So any thoughts from board members about this?
Yeah, the health of it, I think, was very important because that's number one. I do have a little bit of a concern of the age of the tree. I didn't realize there's only like maybe a 10-year lifespan. Oh, sorry. There's only maybe another 10 years. If that's relevant, I don't know.
Yeah, I asked again. That's just a rough estimate.
Right.
I mean, it's the reason I asked the question, but it is just a rough estimate of our best guess
Right.
at this point that it's 69 or 65 years old. And they do have let's call it an average lifespan of around 80. And maybe it'll live to be 150. I didn't really mean that.
But we also had testimony that pruning could be beneficial and help mitigate the possibility of the tree falling.
Board member Hoffmeister, any thought?
Yeah, I guess like I said, I think you asked very good questions because I think that is relevant to the lifespan of the tree. And if you were to take the tree down, you have to replace, as I understand, 2 to 1. So you actually are kind of like having more trees as opposed to less. Now, granted, the ones you plant won't be as big as this tree right here, of course. And I don't know that I don't know if I can say precisely whether or not, I'm gonna look at the second element, the aesthetic beauty of the area will be diminished one way or the other.
Yeah.
I think anytime you use a tree, that's a loss, but would it be, how much would it be, especially if you're replacing it with 2 other trees? How much is the aesthetic value the area go down? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I mean, and all we have are the photos.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only evidence or the only thing we can really deal with when I look at the photos. From what I can see, the canopy writ large, not just the tree, the canopy is pretty good. It's pretty thick.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm assuming people in the neighborhood had the opportunity to comment if they wanted to, one way or the other, and say this is going to bring down my property value, or it's going to hurt other property nearby. I haven't heard that at all.
Yeah, we didn't get any evidence about anything like that.
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and definitely element 3, we've heard this, the anxiety. I've heard that repeatedly by folks testifying today, and how that could be a stressor, and having that hang over you, sort of like Damocles sword, is kind of ominous to a certain extent. So that is somewhat worrisome, and that it makes people hard for people to enjoy their home to the fullest. I will acknowledge, though, that when you buy the house, you did see the trees there, and it was a large tree when you bought it, and you kind of had to understand that when you buy a property, that hey, it comes with these trees on it. So that's kind of a, we make choices in life, but to have that, especially late, I don't know, some people have been here longer than me, but lately, these storms get pretty bad, and to see that trees, swaying back and forth over your property, it's leaves you a little uneasy at times.
Any other thoughts from the board? I do have a proposal to make, but I just want to, if there's other thoughts at this point. For me, so number one, the preservation of the city's canopy is really, really important to me. It's really important to the city. It's in the city code. It's important to all of us. It's important to Mr. Shell and his neighbors. Sorry, do I need to speak up? All right, so far this meeting, no one's heard a word I said. And no one said anything until right now. Sorry. That preservation of the canopy, I think, is something we all share. Everybody in this room, I'm sure, shares that. For me, the canopy cover and the visual prominence that tree affords, you fellow board members, I've been on the board for 3 years, and we get tree appeals. It's probably the most frequent thing that we do, actually. And I would say compared to other cases, kind of the prominence and the visual beauty of the tree, given the canopy and such, I think I just personally think it's relatively low. In terms of being a very important visually prominent tree. The lifespan thing, again, I know we're doing our best. We're doing our best to do that. For me, if the answer would have been more along the lines of, it's a 35-year-old tree that has the likelihood of living another 40 years or 45 years, that would matter to me. And so my proposal on this, I guess I'm making a motion. I think everybody's done their job here. I think Mr. Shell has been doing his job for the last 2 to 3 years on this thing. I think he's put a lot of investment into that tree and neighboring trees. I think everybody's done their job here wonderfully. I want to thank the city for it. You're doing your job. But I do think the level of anxiety on this, and because the canopy issue, I appreciate what the city attorney said about we can't just keep cutting down these leaning trees. We can't, otherwise we're going to have no trees left. It's one of the reasons we have the appeals board. It is. It's one of these, or change the darn code, right? That's not. So my move on this is that we overturn the denial by the city with appropriate replacement, whatever the city and the homeowner decides is an appropriate replacement. Right now, I think it says 2 in the decision, the draft decision. I think it says 2 to 1 with those 2 going on the property. Do I remember that correctly?
I think that's right.
Well, I would stick with that and say that's really what we want to do. But once again, because this can be difficult, I think, for us on the board. We are not, I am not, by proposing that, saying the city did anything wrong here, right? I think you did your jobs just as you're supposed to. So that's my move, that we do overturn the decision. We allow the removal of the tree with the proper replacement, which is 2-to-1 on the same property. That's my motion.
I would second that motion.
If I could just ask for specificity that the replacement is with the 15-gallon size Monterey pine trees.
Is that what's written there?
In the alternatives, yeah, approve the removal of the tree with a 2-to-1 replacement ratio of a 15-gallon size Monterey pine trees.
It's a good, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna have. that
Thank
time.
you for that detail, because we have heard testimony, fellow board members, that the property has a lot of pines on it. The homeowner said that he worries about putting 2 more Monterey pines on that particular property. He mentioned or asserted that he'd be more than willing to put 2 more trees into but maybe one of them isn't a Monterey pine. So what do you want to do about it, board? What do you want to do?
For me, I think as long as one is a Monterey pine, I don't think both have to be Monterey pine. I'm not wedded to.
I'm not sure what the reasoning was, why not the 2 Monterey pine. They don't seem to take that much room. I didn't hear that in the testimony. that
Okay.
was Specific on the.
All right. So so my motion is, thank you. My motion is that we we overturn the decision, and we allow the removal of the tree exactly as written, with the 2 Monterey pines, 15-gallon replacement, and that would be our decision. Because we don't, as you're just saying, the reason I'm changing, Board Member Fritz, is you're right. We don't have really the wherewithal right now here in this room to between the 3 of us come up with the other tree.
Right, and since that's what the city recommended, right?
And that's what the city recommended. So that's my motion. Do you want to second that motion? All right.
I vote
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Board Member Fritz,
aye.
Board Member Hoffmeister,
Yes.
and Chair Glenzer.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is passed 3-0.
All right. Thank you all for your time today, and we're adjourned.
We actually have 2 more things before we adjourn.
Bye.
Well, at
If
least you
everyone
heard
else-
me.
If everyone else would like to head out, that's fine. Okay, is there any board member comments at this time?
Nothing for me.
No comments? Okay, now we are adjourned at 11:08. Thank you so much.